out here, and particularly outside of Crediton, there's an issue with travel time and how people get
carers
paid.
will now be paid travel time under the new contract, which should make a difference. The problem is, it is private sector business, and at the end of the day, we can't make people do the work. It is a real problem. It's a nationwide problem. It's not just a Devon problem. It's the same as the shortage of nursing. It's a nationwide problem.
So are you saying there's nothing we can do to stop this happening again next week?
I can't guarantee it won't happen again next week, Mary, no. But most of the time, people's care packages are sourced and found, and I get a lot of compliments saying how good the care has been, how helpful it's been. Occasionally, we have a situation.
Will you be getting back to this person via the courier?
I haven't had a complaint come into me personally.
But just as it's out there in the public domain now, and you probably, I don't know, have some...
Yes, I can certainly
I was just thinking, I don't know, John, obviously we have to protect this person's identity, but do you think that person would welcome a voluntary response?
I think we need to be a bit careful because of patient confidentiality and stuff.
Absolutely, as I said.
And I'm not sure, Jane, it would be appropriate.
Perhaps a public letter to the courier then.
I think again,
I think
I
we
can't
need to be
get
really careful.
into that in terms of Devon County Council, but if the person themselves wanted to put in a formal complaint, we would take that on, and I would deal with them personally. I don't want to do it in public.
It's a shame there's this dissonance, isn't there, between, we have to sort of hedge around, but you can't sort of do it.
It's actually about confidentiality.
I absolutely understand that.
And that is paramount. So,
yeah.
I can't.
The thing is, but we end up in this sort of quite absurd situation. We know there's a problem, we can't respond to it or recommend it something else. Yeah.
If the individual themselves wants to,
I'd be very happy to talk to them.
wants to contact Jane, we can do that. But actually, myself, Jane, Maggie, if we did something and that patient's confidentiality was broken, we'd be struck off.
I absolutely understand, but in general terms, this is.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying.
I know what you're saying as well.
Yeah.
I don't think we should stay in that situation. It's a terribly adverse PR situation that we have. It's been going on for years and years and years, against which we're suddenly bobbing up and saying, oh, look at this brave new world that we as a group are trying to engineer. And to try to get backing for that against this sort of background is extremely difficult. This is not unusual, we all know it isn't. You reach a certain age and either at the bowling club, the dancing club, your own family, my mother-in-law, all sorts of people, parents living in rural Herefordshire, we've all come across this. And part of it is precipitated, not by the system. Once you're in the system, you're okay. It creeps up on you and then it happens suddenly, out of the blue. And people don't know where to turn. And it's this question, we were talking about it earlier, about care navigation. Now, if you don't know about care navigation, you know nothing about it, how do you find out? It is extremely, extremely difficult. We talked about one point of reference. I think if we can develop that and get some things on notice boards in GP surgeries, so people who don't know about it have a chance of reading, so that when it happens, they can do something.
Can we move on because it's getting late?
Yeah. But I think that is the way forward. Is developing this single point of contact that we were talking about earlier on. If we can move along that front, then I think we can get people into situations where they get a care package.
Yeah. And Richard and Charlotte have got an action to talk about taking that forward. So we'll let them do that outside the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, communication subgroup. I know Kerry's not here.
Kerry would like to raise two things. One is around the Mid-Devon community representative vacancy, which, James, did you want to say anything about that?
I didn't, but basically the PPGs have got the right to send someone forward as part of the representatives for the patient participation group. As you're well aware, there are 90 practices within the Mid-Devon, and each of the practices sends a representative to that group. As part of the new structure, the new strengthening engagement, this is going to be a more dynamic role, and perhaps a more demanding role than has previously been found. And it's going to involve a greater involvement which is one of the reasons why I'm here, to find out what's going on within our area to ensure that there is patient engagement at all levels. So there will be 2 representatives from the Mid-Devon, and anyone who has an interest is invited to apply. There is 1 vacancy. I'm the sole person. I'm lonely. I need someone to hold my hand. So we want representatives, people who are going to articulate, represent, you know, the views of the community rather than just their own parochial issues. So if you're interested, there is an advert on the CCG website. I think the closing date is very soon.
4th of March.
4th of March.
Yes, Friday.
That's when the interviews are. Please.
But the interviews are
Which doesn't say about
I think the interviews are in a couple of weeks. But, and James, I think you raised a very valid point. It does yourself, and there'll be 1 other person, and it's about representing the views of the whole of Mid-Devon.
You're actually in Hampton, aren't you?
I am. That's my practice. Yes.
Okay, so if anyone's interested in that, then details are on the website. I've got one other bit of any other business. Has anyone else got anything they want to raise? Okay, my other bit of any other business, and Frank, you alluded to it right at the beginning, is the size of the group here. And to be quite honest, I don't know what the right size of the group is, but we seem to be expanding. And I suppose it's really important to have key stakeholders around here, and you're all important. I don't think I'd really want it getting any bigger than this, and I suppose the question, but I'm up for hearing other views, and then also I suppose we could think about whether we do have too many people here, and whether anyone feels that we need to rationalise a little bit. So again, those are my thoughts. I'll throw it open to the floor for comment.
Well, this is when the terms of reference are quite useful, because basically it depends what the objective of the meeting is. If it's to sort of to brainstorm and come up with ideas, then we're way too big in the way that the meeting's currently set up. If it's about sort of hearing reports and making comments on that, then that's probably a different kettle of fish. So I mean, as interest has grown, then probably a little bit more care, as it were, or kind of thought going into how you sort of drive the whole project forwards and what this group's about is really quite important. Clearly, it's an important issue, otherwise not everybody would have turned up. So, first of all, you've got people's attention. Now it's a question of actually how to move the project forward in the best way. And, that's where we kind of everybody ignored the terms of reference up till now, but it's probably not a bad idea to dust them off.
Thank you, Richard.
I was going to say exactly that. I think coming in very new to it, I think you've got to set up a governance arrangement that might take little projects off and report back to this group. I don't personally get a feeling of we have a timeline of where we're trying to get to. We've got clear deadlines, clear responsibilities. I think it seems to be a couple of people taking on a massive amount of responsibility, and we've got lots of skills around the table. Whether we need to chunk this project down into the individual items and use people's skills, because it'd be very, very interesting. I mean, this letter's interesting. I mean, amazingly interesting, but I don't get a feel of how we're going to act on that in terms of the improvement of services.
Well, I mean, what that letter does is it kind of neatly identifies the problem we face.
Yeah.
It's a human story, and okay, so it may be more exceptional, but actually, in the round, that's the problem we have to solve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Richard. Any other views? Michael?
I think we need all the inputs that we've been getting. I've only been to 3 meetings myself, but several different people around the table, stakeholders, and it is a stakeholder steering group. There's a point at which the work of a steering group will come to an end. We've got all the pieces of the jigsaw that we need, and they'll all end up in some form or another on an update of this. And at that point, I think, you need a team that's going to be in an executive role in carrying out that programme of work to turn that paper into reality. And that's where you probably need a more technical project team working with the end users to develop the project plan and to take it forward into the end case is the building and all the chaps working on it. So I think there is a point where you will reach that stage, but the project team may be well working the way and from time to time report to the stakeholders.
We're kind of we're in a slight hiatus at the moment, aren't we? Because we're kind of in between, in the transition between two providers, and it's not completely clear about the ownership of the building. So I found it really interesting today, actually. Today's meeting, I found it really useful. Thanks everyone for your input. But I think when we get an answer from CSEC, and then hopefully we'll get a positive answer, and so it might be that the next meeting that we've had a positive answer, we want to concentrate a bit more on some of that voluntary sector and have a think about what we can draw in the interim. And then I think there'll be another, the GP work's kind of going on in the background, and it's useful to keep all of you updated with what's going on there. And then I think when the RD&E take on community services, there'll be another, it'll change again a little bit more.
Get some specialist help at that point as well.
There are a couple of things that came out of what you were saying, and I think one of the benefits of this is that we can be proactive in anticipating and discussing prior to the various stages that are going to develop as a result of various documents being sent, as we approach different stages, as we have a better indication of exactly what services will be provided from here. So I think that there are a lot of preparatory work that we can do, so that when things develop into what we hope will happen, we actually have established quite clear plans. I quite clearly see there is going to be a need for project groups, task and finish groups. I think the sooner that's got underway, I think the greater the chance of success in achieving what you want. But I think the idea that is, I think the group is fine, but I think certainly task and finish groups reporting back is essential if we're going to maintain the momentum.
Okay, any other?
I'll just say the approach that they've adopted in Axminster is kind of like that really. We've got a steering group with about 10 people maximum in terms of guiding strategic direction, and then they've got an ops team that meet weekly, and they're kind of doing side of things, and so they've got the provider represented there, and that's maybe what we need to get to.
So shall Charlotte and I take a look at the terms of reference and have a look and come up with some proposals for next time?
A general point I'd like to make is that people actually representing the community here is about 50% of the group, and I don't think it should fall below that, because we're the people who are benefiting from or not benefiting from the services.
Yeah, and I'm quite happy with that, Mary. I suppose, if everyone disagrees with me, that's fine, but I just don't think I want the group to get any bigger than this is, because it won't function. So does anyone disagree with that?
I don't disagree with it, but the only thing I point out, I was sort of thinking, scratching my head the other day, and actually I have to say, I can think of probably half a dozen other people that would in fact, be qualified, if you like, to be here. But the thing is, I totally agree with you, and possibly, what's being said, you are actually perhaps coming down to the thought of having two groups, but you're obviously going to go away and think about it, and yeah.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, so we'll go away and have a think about that. If anyone else, I think we kind of agreed that actually we don't want the group to get any bigger. So if anyone else does ask, they can come along. Perhaps we could thank them for their interest, but and say that we're happy to kind of keep them updated with minutes and things.
Well, with respect to the terms of reference, hopefully it can drive this, but there's differences between sort of people with an interest and an input, and people who are actually going to do something as a result of what's happened, and it's very difficult to differentiate on that. So each person here has got a kind of what's the word, populace that they can report back to, and that no doubt will go on through the various different sort of governance sections, setups that you've got. But when it comes to sort of open, there's going to be a time when we need a big room and we need to sort of structure something in a way where everybody can chip into the pot. But I don't think it's this group, otherwise you'd be here from under Sunday.
Okay, it's 1:45. Just before we wrap up, Michael, I know you've kindly come up with a few things on a flip chart